Conductor Juraj Valcuha, you're conducting Also sprach Zarathustra by Richard Strauss this week with the Helsinki Philharmonic. And Richard Strauss was, at his time, he was not only a composer, but he was a very distinguished conductor as well. So is it different for you as a conductor to conduct pieces by composers who were conductors themselves, as Mahler and Strauss?
In fact, almost I would say easier, because both of them they were very nice to conductors, because you can find in their scores indications for conductors, which is quite unusual for symphonic music, for early symphonic music. So Strauss, sometimes you can find here in 4. So he's helping conductors, and I studied myself composition always together with conducting in Slovakia, then in Russia, then in Paris. So I think that I have also a little bit this kind of understanding and seeing the scores from the point of view of a composer. Now, of course, I don't have too much time to consecrate to composition. But Strauss, for me, is one of my favorite composers.
Yeah, it must be that the scores kind of work, that there are no orchestration mistakes with that sort of composers.
I would say, and I would go even further, that he makes sound almost every orchestra in a very good and positive way. So from this point of view, it's of course much more difficult to conduct composers like Beethoven, Haydn, and Mozart, because it's not easy sounding scores. But Strauss is really somebody who makes it almost easy. Of course, it's very difficult to play, because technically is on the top highest level. But he's able to find colors and combinations which will give you really a great satisfaction playing and listening this music.
His breakthrough works, the 2 operas, Salome and Elektra, they shocked the audience. Salome maybe for its subject, and Elektra for the musical language. But towards the end of his life, Strauss kind of gave up the demands of being a radical avant-garde composer, and even some people accuse him of being calculating somehow. Do you have any thoughts on that, on the progression of his musical language?
Yeah, Elektra, of course, is also a very shocking subject, but already with his first symphonic poems, let's say Macbeth, Don Juan, Till Eulenspiegel, it was already Strauss. And he was able to change his language, the connection with the atmosphere and with the subject of an opera. So he could really become extremely avant-garde composer in Elektra, for example, and sort of Viennese, if you want, in Rosenkavalier, or almost, of course, Alpensymphonie, or you can accuse him of description, of calculating. But you can see, for example, this, especially this piece, Alpensymphonie, as a completely different piece. Not only descripting a nature and the waterfalls and whatever, but descripting life from beginning until the end. And of course, he was able to create atmospheres, and when he needed, he could put 2 or 3 harmonies, tonality together. But it sounds always somehow good. So he was able to find combinations, polytonal, polyrhythmical combinations, that it always is in the service of the purpose.
You have two own orchestras, one in Naples, Teatro di San Carlo, and then you're the first guest conductor of the Berlin Concerthouse Orchestra. And you already told what sort of things you have to do with those orchestras, but what do you listen to first when you start rehearsing with an orchestra that is new to you? What sort of things do you pay attention to in the very beginning of the first rehearsal?
No, the new orchestra means new acoustic. And that's important because all sounds develop in a certain acoustic. Of course, the orchestra knows the acoustic, but it's completely new, for example, for me. So I have to, during the first minutes, half an hour, to discover how to understand and how to combine sounds and what is possible to obtain, and just to make it comfortable and familiar for me for the second rehearsal or second part of the first rehearsal. So it's always very interesting to, after the first upbeat, to see what is going to happen, the reaction. Of course, then every orchestra reacts differently. It depends who conducted the orchestra before, which repertoire, and so on. And of course, you are looking for qualities, of course, but qualities, they will exist themselves. So that's a positive thing. So for some weakness or for some things which need to be fixed, if it's necessary. So this is the job to find for everybody certain direction and to put all these people in one direction, more or less in the one way and one street.
Maybe also sometimes some gifts and some unexpected gifts from an orchestra with a, I don't know.
Of course, it's always exchange. So, of course, if there is nothing to fix, it's better not to touch it, not to change it completely.
If it works, don't fix it.
Exactly.
Yeah.